Good morning, everyone. This is like a rodeo or something here, trying to let everyone in. We're having a few little technical problems, but here we go. I hope all of you are well. I'm so grateful to be able to join with you, some of you from far-flung places, and some who have been before, and some who are new to us this time. We are so grateful for your presence with us today. We're looking to harness hope with our friends, 2020 clear vision and how horses create hope. So we're in such challenging times now with fear and anxiety. We've had wildfires here in Ashland. Many friends have lost their homes. And just the threat of more fires and the smoke and so much going on in our larger world as well. So it's more and more important for us to gather together, to join together for herd wisdom, if you will, with our human companions and our horses as companions of another kind. Denise, can you spotlight me and take that slide down so people can watch me light this candle? I'm lighting a candle here for us as a beacon of hope, like stars in the dark night of challenging times. As I light this candle, we're calling in the ones who teach us to hear and see more than our usual senses offer us. Calling in the horses' history-long partnership for empowering us to enter new frontiers. Calling in their power for returning us to our hearts, where our greatest resources lie. Calling in their restoration of our relationship with the natural world, and calling in balance of the fierce energies around us. We'll start too with a practice for bringing us into this present moment through engaging the power of breath, which we have done with each of our sessions in somewhat different ways. And this time we're going to be practicing the Buddhist breathing practice called Tonglen. It has to do with breathing in our world or in ourselves that are difficult, fear, anxiety, confusion, taking that in on the in breath and then allowing it to go out on the out breath, so that the out breath is, you experience peace, joy, maybe a sense of cool if you've been breathing in the heat of emotions. But before we start practicing that for just a few moments, let's each take our hands, hold out your hands, and in one hand, hold the loss and the sorrow and the fear and the anxiety that you may have been aware of in experiencing. And in the other hand, hold compassion and joy and peace. And then bringing those two hands together and holding them to your heart. Let's practice that breathing of Tonglen for the next few seconds. Breathing in the challenges of this time. And then on the out breath, beauty, joy, peace. In breath. Compassion, gratitude on the out breath. Thank you. And now, as we look at the next slide with one of our participants, as we enter this time of finding ways to hope, today we'll be exploring again in this current historical context that has really catapulted our whole world into crisis, how our horse-human connection can provide us sustenance with images and sharing and exploring and creating together the future before us. I want to review just briefly some of the other, in the past sessions, what we have harvested that has to do with the horse's talents and what they offer us in this horse-human connection, like their herd dynamics. That offers us an understanding of the power of community and skills for leadership. These are some of the talents of horses that we incorporate and explore in Riding Beyond. That horses have a heightened sensing of their environment, and that offers us the opportunity to attune to our own energetics and to the subtleties of what's going on interpersonally. They have and because of that sensitivity, they have a lot of discomfort with incongruence. That is, when we may pretend or act in one way, but actually be feeling different inside. And horses experience that as discomfort, and they'll turn away from us, or they'll even sometimes will nip at us. And so in interacting with them, we have the opportunity to become congruent with their message of discomfort, to find a sort of truth telling, and to move into heart discernment as opposed to our ego. And then there is the power and beauty of the horses throughout human history that offers us the opportunity to have an archetypal companion with us that helps us access our larger lives. That's what's happening here in this picture with one of our Riding Beyond participants. And then there's their skill, the horse's skill at nonverbal body language, so that we can learn to express ourselves with our whole bodies, head, heart, and gut, and avoiding reliance on the spoken word, and increasing our literacy with our body language, giving us access to wisdom within our bodies. And then finally, there is that the horses return to calm following an alarm. They'll as a herd, they'll all of a sudden run, and then within at something that sparked their flight response, but then within a couple of minutes, they're back grazing calmly. And we can learn an emotional resilience from that, modulating our own energy, something that's, I find, particularly challenging during these days. And so those are some of the talents of the horses that we've been exploring, and we'll be continuing those explorations today, and we look forward to engaging you with that. And so we're beginning because this is Breast Cancer Awareness Month, we are beginning if you could change the slide to the next one, Denise. We are beginning an email campaign that you probably received this morning that has to do with horses creating hope. All month we'll be sharing stories and other images and experiences about the horse-human connection. In particular, it's the word hope is an acrostic for the H is for honoring those on the breast cancer journey, offering the magic of the horse-human connection, programs for physical, emotional, and spiritual healing, and empathy, encouragement, and empowerment. These are some of the key cornerstones of the work of Riding Beyond. And we look forward to sharing that with you. So if you could bring us back to the gallery view, please, Denise, so that we can just check in for just a moment. If people could go to the chat down there and just type in where you are joining us from. What piece of geography? Are you from here in the Rogue Valley, or where? If you would just type in in the chat where you are coming here from, then that'll be fun for us to see as people join us more here. And then I want to introduce the team that's making this possible besides myself. Denise is the main technical host up there. If you could wave, Denise. And then we'll be hearing from Jen Lieber here pretty soon. And Karen Vega-Henkel is our volunteer. Hi, Karen. And Peggy Dean and will be sharing, opening the directions for us. And Carolyn Joes and Mary Beth Watt. There you are. Okay. So as we move ahead now, as is our custom, we'll be calling in the 7 directions. This is something that we do in all of our Writing Beyond sessions, as well as these virtual sessions. And we'll be standing present to the form of a mandala, which the 7 directions actually are. And, but I want to mention that last week a friend shared a dream with me, with several of us actually, that had to do, that was engendered by a news report, I guess it was, about Portland, Oregon's weekend in violence that was anticipated at that time. And the question asked of her, what was she prepared to do about these kinds of things? And she took it into her dreams. And then she had this dream that night. She was with a group of people, a large group of people, people that she knew. And the group was being led by an artist friend of ours, Denise Kester, whose company and artwork is called Drawing on the Dream. And Denise was orchestrating this group into a new art. Everyone was in costume in this dream. It was very vivid. It was friends who have gathered for over 30 years to practice everyday rituals to empower their lives and empower the world. And all were in costumes, beautiful, elaborate dresses and headdresses. And they were going to be dancing a complex dance. And it was essentially a living mandala. She said the dream was especially vivid, and the pattern was created, which we would follow for attending to the violence anticipated in Portland, holding an intention of love and acceptance. And it was being filmed from overhead. We have an image that someone shared of what that might look like. So it was being filmed in the dream from overhead. If you could put that image up, Denise, and it was being shared for the whole world to witness, this mandala of living, this living mandala. So my friend who lives in the Midwest in Chicago, she felt like this dream was a moment to share with our larger community and an invitation to breathe into this kind of rich imaginal space with the joy and magic and aliveness, and to hold it for Portland. And that was last weekend. And fortunately, that demonstration fizzled out, the violence of it. But it's an image that we can hold into the future for our whole world's violence and abuse and chaos that's going on. So calling in the 7 directions is another mandala from the Native American tradition. And so I'm going to call on Peggy here in just a moment. And I just want to mention too that I've was recently shared a wonderful video from the Native American perspective on the topic of what if the land holds the answers to society's greatest challenges. And we don't have time to look at it here this morning, but I'm going to send it to you. And it has a section about horses as being key, spirit companions. And I hope you'll enjoy it. So Peggy, would you please join us now and call in the 7 directions? Thank you.
Spirit of the East, of the yellow horses, season of spring and place of sunrise, we call you to bring your inspiration, creativity, and hope for a new story. Thank you for your illumination. Spirit of the South, of the red horses, season of summer and place of growth and harvest, we call you to bring your energy and strength and power to go the distance. Thank you for your warmth and connection. Spirit of the West, of the black horses, season of fall and place of preparation, we call you to bring your powers of introspection and wisdom to our gathering. Thank you for your insight. Spirit of the North, of the white horses, season of winter and place of purification, we call you to bring your powers of renewal to our gathering. Thank you for your patience. Spirit above, of the mythical horses, place of spiritual influence and vast beyond, please shine your light on this gathering as we claim resources to sustain us. Thank you for your compassion and love. Spirit below, of the horses we see and touch, may our connection with them root and ground us in our learning and sharing. Thank you for purpose. Spirit of the center, we bring our open hearts to the center of this gathering and to our creative endeavor with new hope, refreshed joy, and nurturing one another in our community of horse human connection.
Thank you, Peggy. Thank you so much. As we sort of just feel that great orb of being around us, that we're gathered together with the horse beings and such a greater reality as we go into this time together. Before we move ahead, I meant to call, and I will now call on Carolyn Jost, our board president, for just a few words from her welcoming us. Carolyn?
Okay.
There you go.
Hope you can hear me.
There you go.
All right. Hi, everyone. I'd like to welcome you today on behalf of the board. As Trish was pointing out, today is October 1st, and we're kicking off our fundraising campaign for October, which is Breast Cancer Awareness Month. And this session coincides with that kickoff, and it's called Horses Creating Hope. During these unprecedented times of crisis and heartache and anxiety, how do we find hope? We find hope by offering hope. And that is our purpose today and always. While we're not able to meet in person right now, and our normal fundraising activities, which would be going on during October, they've been upended. We still have many expenses, including the cost of feeding and caring and housing our equine partners, as well as the ongoing investment in equipment and supplies. And it all adds up to approximately $30,000 per year. So we're asking you if you're able to make a charitable gift to help offset these ongoing costs. It would go a long ways to helping us keep the barn doors open while helping breast cancer survivors open doors to a brighter future. Amid the uncertainty of these times, Riding Beyond is quietly hoping our donors will ride to the rescue. Thank you so much, and I enjoy today's offering. Thank you.
Thank you, Carolyn. Thank you so much. So now we'll be moving into a little bit with our horses, and Jen Lieber is going to lead us in with some time with some of her own horses. She's fortunate to be living with her horses And Jen has been, right from the very beginning, one of our key volunteers. So in fact, she's our head volunteer. So for the horse handlers. So hi, Jen.
Good morning, Trish. Gosh, thank you for that always touching introduction. I never know what you're going to say, and it always just leaves my heart flowing open. So I really appreciate being able to be with everyone here today and to do something that will help us connect with horses, which is right. I live with my horses. So in a minute, we'll see some video. Trish initially told me about the subject matter that we would have for this month. I didn't know how to approach this. The topic of hope with all the loss and the heartbreak around us. I strongly knew it was needed, but I just didn't know how I was going to get there. And like Carolyn and Trish have already mentioned, one of our herd members, Jack, he's a Riding Beyond helper who's done amazing in this upcoming campaign for a lot of the riding. He wrote and offered the line that they've both spoken that I want to say again. We find hope by offering hope. And I'm so touched by that powerful truth. I just knew that that would be how I would find my way in to what I could show with the horses. So my questions became, what's standing in my way? Can you guys hear me?
Yes.
Yes.
Okay, good. What's standing in my way of finding and offering hope? And my answer was my own repetitive stories, the things that I tell myself. And where do I get stuck? Get stuck in recycling these feelings that I have, limit my capacity or resist, help me keep resisting my ability to change my story or to be in a brighter, more open space. So then the question that I always go to ask again would be, what do the horses have to teach me? And so for me, what it seemed like was in order to try to find some answers here, I would need to do what they do best. I'd have to slow down, notice, and just be with until I felt a shift or a change, and then I would release. For me, I'm going to call this segment of what I'm going to show you today, Notice and Be With. All right. So the exercise that I chose to explore with my horse Pearl, which you'll see in a minute, is the request to lower her head. Now, when I ask my horse to do this, she has to be willing to be open and vulnerable with me because, in fact, this is actually an exercise in gaining trust. The reason why a lot of horses aren't interested in yielding to this position is because when their head goes completely down, they can't run. So it really is an effort for them to have trust. You'll see me try this exercise with her 3 different times in the video. The first one will be the quickest segment, but will also contain the most resistance. The second one is a longer conversation and actually is a dialogue of 3 instead of 2. And the third one is the most relaxed and also contains an opportunity for you to see the most intimate connection that I made with Pearl. Okay, so if you want to start the video for me, Denise, that would be awesome. Thank you. So my question for you guys when you watch this video is, what do you notice? And what I'd like for you to look for and see if you can find it in the video is, when am I making a request? When am I just being with? And when is there a change in the energy or pressure in how the energetics are being read between me and the horse? So we're gonna wait and look for that video. Some other things that you might, while we're waiting for that video to come up, go. Oh yeah, here we go. This is just Pearl and I, an introduction. And you see, I'm just waiting for an opening with her. I'm actually holding space around us and waiting for her to come to center. In a second, that's gonna start and you're gonna watch our interaction. See if you can, there we go. There we go. See if you can see when I'm making a request or when I'm just being. You see, I've not created any resistance by pulling in the rope. I'm just being with. Do you see her response to my request? And there, she puts her head down, but as you can see, it wasn't very far down and there was pressure from her coming forward. Okay, this next video is much longer. As you can see, it's a dialogue of 3. When I wasn't viewing the video, I knew he was behind me, and this is my other horse, Boogie. He clearly wants to be part of this conversation. I'm trying to have a conversation with Pearl, and he's definitely steering some of the felt sense of what's going on between all of us. So there's really very little pressure for me and Pearl, but Boogie, in fact, is putting pressure on the situation by asking to be with us. I kind of acknowledged him. Do you ever acknowledge something that's kind of a distraction in the hope that it'll just kind of resolve itself or go away? Well, this is clearly a lesson that the horses are teaching, that in order for me to really get that close, intimate connection I would need for Pearl to feel vulnerable, I was really going to have to work through the story of all of us being together. Can you see my request? And I have another request from Boogie. This time, I'm going to block Boogie just a bit because he's still trying to be with when I'm really trying to have the conversation with Pearl. It looks like this might be playing in slow motion. I don't know if you guys are seeing it that way or not. So my request wasn't being accepted, so I went and I changed. You might have seen me change the pressure by putting my hand out. And now you can see that the request, once I changed and acknowledged Boogie, we had success in the trust exercise. This is the last time, there's the least amount of pressure, and we're most together. What I'd like you to see from these next stills, there'll be some stills photos, which is us after the story. Oh, actually, before we do that, this is something that Mystic does. Pearl is also a very itchy girl, and she asks to be scratched after we had that bit of closeness. So I went ahead and scratched her. Here are the stills that are actually showing us after we've worked through our story, what it feels like to open into a new aspect of our relationship and to really find intimate connection. And it wasn't just about Pearl and I, which I had thought it would be. It was really about the 3 of us. And once I came to that story and was open to it, we got to change. I hope that the videos will show you that by slowing down and noticing and being with, the horses and I created a greater intimacy and connection with each other. So thanks for watching that and giving me the opportunity to show you how we came to a more open and maybe even a hopeful space. Okay, I gotta take a breath. The next thing I'd like to be able to do is offer to you and all of us an opportunity or an exercise to explore how we might cultivate without the horse a new relationship with an old story or an emotion that may be standing in our way, or even just something that we wanted to explore more, something to spend more time with. This activity might allow us to gain a new perspective or understanding about something that we feel or have felt. And how being with our old stories or our horses can actually transport us to a new place. This is a gift that's also from one of my teachers. Her name is Rachel Rose. She's the creator of Workshop Muse, and she calls this activity drawing your feelings, but in honor of the horses, I'm going to call it notice and be with. Okay, so first, what I'd like to do is walk through the steps that I have. I'm going to give you the parts that we're going to do and then the steps that I have for how we're going to accomplish this creative process together. First, I'm going to give you the outline. Then I'm going to show you my creative process on a sheet of paper, just so you get a visual image. And then you'll have a chance to do the process. And then hopefully there'll be time to reflect. Okay, the steps are, first thing we're going to do is we'll have a very short centering and mindfulness exercise, getting comfortable with our pen and paper. And then the next thing we'll do is we will recollect a story or event in our mind and have an opportunity to draw that. We'll create 2 images. The first one's our story. We'll do that for about 2 minutes, and about 30 seconds before the end, I'll ask you to, if you haven't already, write some sort of word or phrase that might sum up how you're feeling in that moment. Second time we do it, be recalling what we're feeling in our body right now. We'll put our pen to the paper, we'll trust the pulses, and create some other image that will talk to us about how our body's feeling in the moment. Then I'll also prompt you on the 30 seconds to be sure that you can gather those words. The third thing that we'll do is we'll look at both images, and once we capture those, we'll create a title or a poetic line. Okay, so let me just show you what my image looks like. Oh yeah, it's gonna be backwards. You guys can't read it anyway. That's kind of cool. So this was my story or my recollection. And what I
We lost you. We lost Jen. Don't you want to know that story, huh? I'm going to text her.
Can you guys hear me?
There you
Can
are.
hear me? Okay,
You're back.
if we can't see, okay, do you have video or just audio?
We don't see audio. I mean, we don't see video. We just see audio. We just hear
Okay,
you.
well then you guys are just gonna have to go with my audio version then. So we'll just jump
that'll be
right into
good.
the, yeah, we'll
This is
just
all
jump
about-
right into
this
the
is-
exercise.
And this is all about doodling, right?
Yeah, it's not a literal depiction. We're not gonna have a literal depiction. What we're gonna do first is we're gonna have a
Uh-oh.
can you hear me now? Now I can hear you now. So the exercise is to
You're
take
back.
and hold. Okay, good. The exercise is to take and hold your pen in your hand, get your pen and paper, and we're going to connect with our pen, kind of like I connected with the rope and my following the impulses with my horse. I want you to take that pen and just slowly roll it up and down your palm. Take a deep horse breath and just get connected to the feel that you have in your hand with your pen, like the rope holding you with the experience of being with your horse. Can you guys hear me?
Yes.
So think of a time that you might recall that's not a huge emergency, but some day-to-day kind of situation. Maybe it's been a difficult conversation with a child or your partner, or maybe a time when you were feeling rushed or you'd lost something that you were looking for. Start small with this exercise. And what I'm gonna do, can you guys see me or just hear me?
Just hear you.
I'm gonna go ahead. Okay, what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna go ahead and let you guys put your pen on your paper now that you've warmed up with your pen, and start to, for the next 2 minutes, start to recollect some sort of story, something small in your life, and let that pen follow the story that you're creating in your mind. Just like I let that rope follow the story that Pearl and I were creating together. You're feeling the impulses through your pen and just allowing them to come onto the page. So we're gonna give yourselves another, like, I don't know, 30 seconds or so. And if you haven't already, it might be a good time to collect the phrase or the word that your doodle image may have been able to, you might have been able to find. Just whatever you're feeling or sensing in your body, just go ahead and look at that image and try to put that on the page from the recollection of being in your story. And maybe if Trish can be viewed, she'd be willing to kind of just gently show her doodle as an example.
You see it? The words are
Great.
fire of emotion.
All right. So Trish has collected her words. The next thing we're going to do is we're going to put that pen back in our hand, and we're going to slowly roll that pen back and forth. Take a deep breath. And now you're no longer in the story that you're recalling, but you're going to feel exactly what you feel, leftover emotion from that story in your body. It's the same thing. We're going to trust the impulses and just allow yourself to doodle something about how you're feeling right in this moment. Are you hot? Are you cold? Are you tight? Are you tingly? And just be present to what your body has to say. Kind of like when
Can't hear you.
I'm back. Can you
There you
hear me
are.
now?
Yes.
Okay, so you guys have been feeling in your body and making a doodle with your image. Let's take the next few seconds to wrap up a word, something that comes to you from what you felt inside your body. And go ahead and write that down now. I'm gonna make a little horse breath just because I need to. Okay, can you hear me now? The last step that I'd like you to take is to look at both of your captured images or doodles and bring yourself to this present moment and just see if there's anything that arises that would be like a title or even a poetic phrase, something that allows you to be in that new relationship. Just like when I worked through my story with the horses and we gained a little trust, and on the end you saw in my body and my smile and the relaxed way that we were being together, I found a new understanding. My intimacy and my relationship to what I just experienced with them was heightened. See if you may find some words to help you put into words what you just experienced with yourself, your story, and your body. And if you'd like, before I lose contact again, you guys could share that in the chat.
Or some part of it, if it's a long thing, a few words of it.
Okay, so if you guys want to share that in your chat, and I hope that, thank you for allowing me to share this exercise with you. I hope it was helpful in creating a new relationship or understanding, and maybe even a possibility for you becoming to a more open place that could include emotions you might be looking for, like hope or joy. So Trish, if you'd like, if there's room for or time for people to share, if you would like to run that for me, that would probably be really helpful.
And that's a good idea, because we seem to be having some internet issues today, and so we'll just do our best here. But I'd like to invite some of you to, anyone, just unmute and share your insight. My own was that that I experienced in the second part a kind of spaciousness, and that that led me to think about trusting the flow of life, that when things get difficult, that I can trust and allow my breathing to support and further that. Someone else, anyone else would share? your experience? Just speak up, unmute and speak up.
I have come to acknowledge the fatigue of different perspectives on COVID safety with others.
Yeah. Nice. That's pretty challenging sometimes, I know. Anyone else? Okay, let's just carry this sense of what it means to be present to a situation and to allow things to move forward with that kind of attentiveness, attention, and feeling into it, which can lead us to many good things. And in particular, we'll see what it offers us for hope. I want to tell you a story about a conversation I had with one of our key volunteers at Writing Beyond, Christine. As many of you know, we a couple of weeks ago. And before that, I had actually been trying to contact Christine, and we just kept missing one another for a couple of weeks, really. And finally, 2 days after the fire, which destroyed over 2,000 homes and was really quite traumatizing to everyone, I'm sure those of you from here from the Rogue Valley know what I mean. And so one evening, Christine and I finally got on the phone together, and, you know, we were sharing our stories and about, you know, what it, you know, I actually saw the fire start right outside my back door, just a few doors down. And, but within a few seconds, Christine told me that she was planning to return to the East Coast for 2 or 3 months. And she had put all of her belongings into storage, and the storage unit burned. Everything that she had burned down, except for a folder of important papers that were in her car and a box of photographs that she had been compiling a album for her daughters. So Christine had moved to the West Coast 10 years ago. She has 6 daughters and some grandchildren, and she felt like she just needed some distance from them 10 years ago. There was a lot of drama going on. And so she had been feeling now that it was time for her to return, partly because her grandchildren and her daughters were welcoming her help as they were homeschooling their children. And she felt that it was time to return. But with the shock of losing all of her belongings, she's really seriously wondering if it's time for her to just stay there. And, you know, we were sharing, you know, the stress, you know, of the different situations. I personally have had my adult children living here with me, and all the stresses of their lives as they're trying to reorient around the COVID-19 stresses. And we were just catching up with one another. And Christine was telling me how she remembered a real turning point for her in the 4 years that she's lived here that came at Writing Beyond volunteer training session, when in that session, that particular session, which is this is a practice we often do, the horses are loose in the arena, and we invite the volunteers to go in and interact with the horses at liberty. And Christine, I gave Christine a crop and asked her to go in and interact with Mystic. And as she did so, she realized, she actually burst into tears. And I definitely remember this episode, although she only just now recently told me the details of it, that it was in that moment of moving the horse and taking that influence of the horse, sort of claiming her own power to do that in much in the way that Jen demonstrated today, in this gentle way, that she realized that she had finally been able to take a new relationship to her ex-husband and to the drama of what she had had to step away from. And she said, she's even to this day, this was a couple of years ago that happened, that it was a turning point for her, and that the horses had just been so key in her healing and being able to go back home. And as we were talking about all of this, we were really approaching difficult subjects and much of the darkness that we're all dwelling in. I realized we were talking for over an hour when I suddenly realized that even though we had sort of started the conversation out of a sort of post-traumatic stress state, like, well, what's happened to you? And, what's happened to me? That it was like we were sitting at the side of a river with our feet in the water, and that water was like a river of joy flowing through, and that there was this sense of peace and hope that was emerging out of that sense of joy that was supporting us in this moment. And it made me think of a phrase that I have sometimes heard about the power of abandoning hope. That it's a meme, if you will, to abandon hope. That in every day, in every way, I'm getting better and better. No, not that. Instead, it's giving up hope. Because in a way, that's where we were at when we started the conversation, coming out of the fires. And that our insecurity and path can be eliminated at that, in giving up that hope. And we find ourselves able to take courage and lean into and relax into the foundational groundlessness of our situations in life. It was like in the ending of hope, that really was sort of the gist of our conversation. We found ourselves discovering a new and fresh beginning. And it also reminded me of some words of Pema Chodron, some of her teachings, which where she contrasts the concept of spiritual awakenment is the mountaintop experience, a journey to the mountain, where in the place of enlightenment, we look down on the others below who are suffering, that we have sort of risen above. Instead, the Buddhist concept of bodhicitta is quite different. It has to do with going down, going into, not up, but going into the center of the difficulties, of the challenges. And in a way, that's what I felt like Christine and I were doing. We were going into it, reaching, transcending the suffering of all creatures in the end. That in going into the reality and unpredictability of insecurity and pain, and not trying to push it away, just being present to it for one another, we discovered this water, okay? This healing water of the bodhicitta is the way she talks about it, actually. That's her phrase. Right down there in the thick of things, we discover the love and the hope that will not die. And that's one of the pathways to hope. So now I want to explore the power of story, not in a personal story, but in this case, it's a story written as a poem by my friend and poet, Naomi Shihab Nye. For this story, I'd like to invite you to imagine yourself engaging the power of imagination, which we have explored in some of these sessions. And if you can put on, Denise, if you could put on the image, please. I want you to imagine that you're lying in this hayloft with the horses and enjoying their eating about you peacefully. You're surrounded and you're in there lying with utter comfort as I tell you this story. And this is an image, by the way, from the movie Herd, A Spiritual Journey, which was shown at a fundraiser we had, a film festival a few years ago. It's now available completely free on YouTube, I discovered. And this is one of the scenes from it. And there's one of the things about this movie, Herd, A Spiritual Journey, is that more than any other movie I've ever seen, it is displaying the same kind of relationship with horses and the power of that healing connection. So it's available to you to watch on YouTube if you'd like. So anyway, cuddle up and let's hear this story while you graze together with the horses. And this is a story of how hope can emerge out of chaos. So this poem is called, and story is called Gate 4A. Notice the fragrance of the horses. Maybe they're nickering a bit, or horse breath. The sound of their munching about you, and that peaceful heart-to-heart connection that's possible when you're just being with a horse. Here is Naomi's story. Wandering around the Albuquerque airport terminal, after learning my flight had been delayed 4 hours, I heard an announcement. If anyone in the vicinity of Gate 4A understands any Arabic, please come to the gate immediately. Well, one pauses these days. Gate A4 was my own gate. I went there. An older woman in full traditional Palestinian embroidered dress, just like my grandma wore, was crumpled to the floor, wailing. Help, said the flight attendant. Talk to her. What is her problem? We told her the flight was going to be late and she did this. I stooped to put my arm around the woman and spoke haltingly. Shudawa, Shubiduk, Habiti, Stani Shwai, Min Fadlik, Shubid Sewi. The minute she heard any words she knew, however poorly used, she stopped crying. She thought the flight had been canceled entirely. She needed to be in El Paso for major medical treatments the next day. I said, no, we're fine. You'll get there. Just later. Who is picking you up? Let's call him. We called her son. I spoke with him in English. I told him I would stay with his mother till we got on the plane and ride next to her. She talked to him. Then we called her other sons, just for the fun of it. Then we called my dad, and he and she spoke for a while in Arabic and found out, of course, they had 10 shared friends. Then I thought, just for the heck of it, why not call some Palestinian poets I know and let them chat with her? This all took up 2 hours. She was laughing a lot by then, telling of her life, patting my knee, answering questions. She had pulled a sack of homemade mamul cookies, little powdered sugar crumbly mounds stuffed with dates and nuts from her bag, and was offering them to all the women at the gate. To my amazement, not a single woman declined one. It was like a sacrament. The traveler from Argentina, the mom from California, the lovely woman from Laredo. We were all covered with the same powdered sugar and smiling. There is no better cookie. And then the airline broke out free apple juice from huge coolers, and 2 little girls from our flight ran around serving it, and they were covered with powdered sugar too. And I noticed my new best friend, by now we were holding hands, had a potted plant poking out of her bag, some medicinal thing with green furry leaves. Such an old country tradition. Always carry a plant, always stay rooted to somewhere. And I looked around that gate of late and weary ones, and I thought, this is the world I want to live in. The shared world. Not a single person in that gate, once the crying of confusion stopped, seemed apprehensive about any other person. They took the cookies. I wanted to hug all those other women too. This can still happen anywhere. Not everything is lost. So now, just taking in that story, we're going to experience it more deeply with a process that we practiced in our last session called Lectio Divina. It's a process to slow down. It's a slowing down process. Take a short piece of a few words or some kind of written piece, and you repeat it 3 times out loud. We're going to get into groups of 3 here in just a moment. And but in this and we're going to do the process that way. You read the phrase 3 times out loud. With the first reading, you just listen while one in your group recites it and take it in and notice what word or phrase you recall, and then quickly share that with the others. Just what word or phrase caught your attention from that first reading. And then another person perhaps does the second reading, and listening this time for an image that it creates, some image that arises in your mind. Allow yourself to enter the exquisite sensing of the horses for this part. Their large ears to hear, their eyes to see, their kinesthetic sensing in their skin. So be like a horse for the second part, and allow it to awaken your imagination, some image that's created by those phrases. That's the second reading. And then the third reading is asking, what is it asking you to do? What action to take? You listen for the action that it's suggesting to you to take, okay? So, Denise, if you'll put the slide up, I'm going to quickly just review the process again. And Denise is going to put these instructions into the chat so that you can read them and refer to them in case you forget. And you also need them in order to read the phrase here. And so here's the phrases. It's the last few lines of that poem. It goes like this: not a single person in that gate, once the crying of confusion stopped, seemed apprehensive about any other person. They took the cookies. I wanted to hug all those other women too. This can still happen anywhere. Not everything is lost. So again, you'll read, one person will read that out loud, and you'll notice what word or phrase just catches your attention. With the second reading out loud, you'll be like a horse and allow an image to arise in your mind. And then with the third reading out loud, you'll receive what is it asking you to do, what action to take. Okay? So we're going to take 9 minutes for this process. And Denise is going to put us into breakout groups of 3 people each. And so if you could do that, Denise, we will go ahead with our Lectio Divina. I see that Denise is saying that my video is choppy and that my bandwidth is low. I'm not sure what that's about because there's nobody else around here using the internet. And I hope that you've got enough to understand what we're doing for this next step. Okay? All right. Let's go into our groups. Get back into the session here. Wow, I don't know about you, but that was terrific. First of all, and Anne-Marie was there, and so it was nice for them to meet one another. And I really got a really important message of how I might be helpful in a situation that has somehow felt kind of lost. And for my daughter, and definitely, something hopeful, really. And I'd like to hear from others, if you're willing to share, not share what your experience was like. If you can share it with the rest of the group, that would be great.
Well, we had a good session. I think one of the main images that I took away, and among several, but we loved the image of accepting the cookies. And I could picture the little girls with the sugar on their faces, and the trust that was involved there, and the give and take. And I loved that. And it was really a wonderful story. Thank you, Trish.
You're welcome. Someone else.
Well, one of the things we talked about that was a really helpful reminder for me is that when we're in the middle of all of this angst, that I know for me it can be pretty easy for me to get sort of frustrated and angry, and it's very helpful for me to be reminded of the importance of having compassion. So
Reminder of compassion, yeah, for one another.
And even for people who seem to have a very different perspective than I do to try and find that place of compassion. That was a helpful reminder, and we had that discussion.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's a big challenge nowadays. You know, there's so much polarization going on that is just lending to the fear and, you know, the angst, as you say, from so many things. Anyone else like to share what?
I will share.
Andrea?
In my group, we chose the same sentence, but it is important to where it took me, which was, I wanted to hug all the other women too. And just to say, I haven't hugged anybody except with a hug glove, plastic big things. So for me, I just kept having an image of arms getting bigger and longer and everybody enfolded in the arms. So I came to stay open-hearted and loving, which I think is very similar to what was just spoken as well.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
One thing that came up in our group, Trish and Lauren, which seemed like a little bit of a theme, but I'm thinking about it now, are circles. And how, you know, we need to maybe circle around each other right now, and even just imagine encircling somebody. Sorry, I'm outside, worst place possible, all the cars, but encircling each other with good thoughts, warm feelings, positivity, and especially right now. So that was what came to my mind when we were just talking.
Right.
In our group, we all four of us had different images, different words, different actions. And yet, one of the people, Jack, said, mentioned the value of the herd approach. So even though we came from different places, to be able to engage as a herd.
Nice.
Mm-hmm.
So I had an experience with Esther and Kent, and Esther was thinking about the image of the women standing at the gate, and also thinking about the image of me standing with my horses. And because I've stood with my horses in that kind of relaxed, connected sense, it's really easy for me to take that embodied feel. And because she linked those two images together that I would have not found on my own, I'm going to be able to take that feel of being connected to my herd and put it in any place that I am, like in the grocery store, or maybe not for a while, but whenever I'm at an airport gate or somewhere in a parking lot where I might tend to want to shrink and not feel out into the spaces around me. But because I have that ability, because the horses have tuned me to be able to be that open and maybe hopeful, I'm hoping that I'll be able to carry that as a herd feel into my environments. So thanks for letting me share that. Thanks for helping me find that, Esther.
Well, you know, Jen, I appreciate your saying that, because in a couple of weeks, I'm going to be going into an airport for the first time since February. And this poem of Naomi Nyes is actually one that comes to mind every time I'm in an airport and walking through. I've known this poem for years, and I often think about it, especially on a layover when I have time to think about it, and just sort of embracing the possibility of what good can come out of what could also seem like a, you know, such a drag here once you've done any shopping you want to do. And, you know, but this time it's going to be very different being in an airport. It's going to be a real challenge. A friend just came back a few days ago from traveling to Austin, and he said he was exhausted just from the vigil. And what does it mean to, find an experience like this with the new circumstances that we're living in an airport? I actually like airports, but in general, but I do feel a risk coming. And so, yeah, we'll see. Anyone else?
I'll just add from our group, because it sort of, to me,
Thank you.
brought things together, that that this could happen anywhere, and that talking about all the members of the herd can contribute. I said, and will carry with me, humanity is my herd. So sort of that.
Yes.
Going forward.
I think that's one of the positive teachings of COVID-19 is that it's heightened that awareness in ways that were somewhat unpleasant, but have positive implications for us. So I want to, as we're running, it's time to come into our closing time, and as is our tradition, we want to take a moment, a minute or two, for you to just think about a word or a phrase of what you're harvesting from our time together this last hour and a half. What is a word or a phrase that captures what you're going to take with you? And as that word or phrase comes to you, if you'll put it into the chat, and I will be making some kind of art out of it that you will receive in the coming days, along with a recording of our session, along with a couple of other recordings as well, videos that I think you will find to be inspiring and engendering hope. So let's take a moment and enter into the chat a word or a phrase that captures what you're taking with you from this time together. Go ahead and continue to add yours in if you haven't already. Mary Beth has written another wonderful poem that she's going to share with us here in just a moment. But first, I want to thank all the people who have helped out here today: Denise and Jan, Karen, Carolyn, Peggy, and Mary Beth. So if you would please, Mary Beth, will you share this poem about hope? You'll need to unmute. Is Mary Beth with us?
Okay, can you hear me now?
Yes, we
Okay,
hear you
good.
now. There you go.
Good. I was trying to unmute and couldn't for some reason. But I do want to take this opportunity to to thank you. As always, this was a wonderful respite and a wonderful opportunity to find connection and hope. So thank you.
You're welcome. Thank you for being here.
It begins with hope. That small sparkle of awareness that something could be. If you can hope, you can imagine. Your thoughts become fertile soil for dreams and plans. If there is joy in the dream, it will fuel your actions and new directions will create new paths. When you share your hopes, your thoughts, your dreams with others, others will know the sparkle of your awareness and join you on your path. What began as hope will then create a new way to live in the world.
Thank you, Mary Beth, for those words that are like a blessing for our closing. And our next slide is, there we go. Thank you. Those are some of our horses, Mystic and Journey, and forget, he's not working with us anymore. Forget the little guy on the right there. Forget his name, but and Abby's another one. And so may you begin with hope from this point forward, and then create a new way to live in the world. And we look forward to seeing you again together as we join together in about 4 weeks. And thank you for joining us. Bye.
Bye, thank you.
Bye-bye.
Thank you, thank you.
Thank you. May the horse be with you.
Thank you, Trish. That was wonderful.
Yeah. See you next time.
Hey, Trish.
I'm trying to save the chat here.
I saved the chat. I'm not sure if Ernette was with us or not. I couldn't. I tried to communicate with her, but
She's on mute.
yeah,
But-
I know. I unmuted her, but I didn't. And I tried to chat with her, but I didn't hear from her.
Okay. Well,
I'm not
I hope you made it,
sure.
Burnett. You and
She's
Dave.
having technical difficulties.
Yeah, she might not have made it. Well, she'll get the recording.
Yeah.
Hi, Colleen.
Wait.
We can't hear you.
Unmute.
My cursor is gone, so I know one trick, Command Shift A works, so I did that. But
Oh,
yes,
Good.
I didn't know that shortcut. That's good to know. Anyway,
And if you hold down your space bar, you can also talk briefly during that.
I just tried that and it didn't work. So enough. Thank you. I arrive and to be, have full function during our breakout. It was wonderful. So everything.
Cool.
I'm so glad you could join us. It's always great to have you.
Thank you, Trish. And yes. Wow.
Denise, do you know Colleen? I don't know if you all know one another.
Are you kidding? Are you kidding me?
We write together.
Oh, of course, duh. Hello.
We're in the
You're
song.
still in the zone,
The
man.
other herd here, duh.
Can you tell where I am?
Oh,
No. Oh, you're at the church outside of it.
oh wow.
Yeah,
Syrian church.
the Presbyterian church.
I was
Yeah.
inside and they were moving chairs around and stuff, but then they had to lock up. So they moved me outside,
Oh my gosh.
which is fine. It's good out here. I mean, I have great internet here.
Wow.
I know.
That's good.
But my internet was failing, Colleen, at the outset there. The guy
Yeah, you got all
CenturyLink was
wobbly
working
as
out
you
front of
said
my
that.
yard, and,
You just got
Yeah.
wobbly as you said that.
oh, right now?
Yeah, just now.
Oh, well, wobbly like that is because I'm holding my laptop with one hand.
No, your voice got wobbly.
Oh, oh,
Yeah,
wow.
whatever.
Well, anyway, I'm glad that the church
Your
was
vo-
just-
yeah, you're
just
wobbly.
jumped
Your
in my
voice is
car
wobbly.
and went looking for a hot spot. Really?
Yeah, your voice is going wobbly. Anyway, I guess we better go.
Thank
Yeah.
you.
Thank you. Thank you, Denise. Thank you, Colleen.
Good.
So go ahead and send me the